Hey friends, great to see you this evening. I am super excited. I'm going to be joined by my friend, Chef Bailey. She is the author of this brand new book, Cook, Heal, Go Vegan. I'm sure that reads backwards. It's an Instagram thing. I apologize that that's the case, but I am super excited to get into this with her and find out the scoop. And by the way, she's also going to be cooking one of the recipes from the book. It's actually the last recipe. It is the seeded herbed spelt bread. She's going to be making it live tonight. The recipe, the ingredients were actually listed in my IG stories. You will find them there. You can screenshot them later if you want to. And we're going to get into this in just a moment here. Okay, let me get her in here. This is my friend Chef Bailey. And y'all need to check out this book. It's incredible. Completely amazing. Hello, hello.
Hi.
It's great to see you.
So good to see you too.
Raising the roof. You should be raising the roof. This book is fantastic.
Thank you so much. It's finally here. It's alive.
The amount of work that goes into a book, was it more than you expected?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I knew, you have this huge project and this deadline in your brain, but there's just like so many little things that you don't really think about. So many people that touch the book, so many different little deadlines. So yeah, the book and a full-time business was definitely like, okay. And I'm actually in a hotel room right now, gonna do this recipe because we're all over the place right now.
That is incredible. That shows versatility. That shows that you can roll with the punches. And I think that there is a mutual respect that exists among authors because we all know how much effort a person puts into creating something like this. And I want to jump into your recipe, but before we even go there, I just want to show the people, we got over 200 people here right now. I want to show them a little bit about this book. So you guys, I'm going to actually flip my screen here. And I just want to show you real quick. This is the book right here, Cook, Heal, Go Vegan. Sorry for the funny lighting. And if you open it up, okay, I'm going to show you, check this out. This is what you're going to find in this book. It's recipes. These are all vegan recipes, guilt-free comfort food, better than takeout. Check that out. Which one do you guys like there? I'm like, the watermelon poke bowl caught my eye immediately. So did the avocado curry noodles. Whoa. Inspired by Mexico. Maybe you could tell us more about that in a moment.
Yes.
Quick and healthy. Morning mastery. Look at that. Chia pudding 3 ways.
Yes.
Midday munchies. A healthy sweet tooth. The essentials. This book is a wonderful resource for every single person who's looking for delicious food and delicious vegan food. That's all plants.
Yes.
Which of course, you guys know I love. So talk to us.
Oki is insane because it really is. It's like so good.
So talk to us about the book. Where did the inspiration for this book come from?
Well, I'm a classically French trained chef. So I've been cooking in kitchens professionally since I was 11. So writing a cookbook has always been like, really high on my list. I never thought I would ever write a vegan cookbook, nor did I ever think I would ever be a vegan. But yeah, just like my journey with endometriosis, and now I work with clients and teaching them how to cook delicious food that they like and heal their bodies. And just that was like the main inspiration behind it. Is so many people that I talk to are like, want to go plant-based, but they like went to a plant-based restaurant that didn't have very like flavorful dishes, or everyone has this like one thing or this one like dish that they had that maybe wasn't that great, that kind of like tainted their view on plant-based food. And so I kind of wanted to blend like my classically French trained techniques with plants and show you that you can have pleasure and healing at the same time. And that was kind of there's recipes that I've been saving for years for this book. Like the butter recipe is so insane. It's so delicious. So yeah, that was like my main inspo.
So you were a classically French trained chef first, right?
Yeah.
And then you had a journey to become vegan. How did that happen?
Yeah, I don't even know. Honestly, it was like desperation. Like I tried everything else, having endometriosis, like being a professional chef and having something like endometriosis are both very intense things. And so it was really hard for me to find balance in my life. And I was living actually in San Francisco downtown. So I was also living like the city life when I was like in my peak chronic pain, and also like working harder than I've ever worked. Just, you know, like restaurants, front of house, back of house, private chefing, like just grinding away, and also taking opiates for pain. And I just kind of got to this point where like I just couldn't do it anymore. And like no one really understood my endometriosis or just all the pain that I was having. And I think I had a breaking point where I had a doctor that suggested using my spine to like get rid of some of my pain. And I was like, this just doesn't intuitively feel, and I was only like 23 at the time. So I was like, this just doesn't intuitively feel like something that's going to help me, you know, help me heal. This just feels like something I'm going to have to heal from. And so I just slowly started learning more about nutrition. And I mean, it was a slow process, like, you know, going through all the different diets, and it's really confusing when you first go into it. But yeah, I don't know. And then after my last surgery, like giving up cheese and seafood was the last thing that I hadn't done. And my husband was like, we're giving up cheese together. Like, we're doing this together. You can do it. And so we went plant-based. And within 6 months, I was off all my hormone replacements, all painkillers. Like, I had lost weight. All my cystic acne was gone. Instead of being, because I was in and out of the hospital like every month. So instead of that, like I haven't been back to the hospital since I went plant-based. So yeah, it pretty much just like changed my life. And I started by just starting for 30 days.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah.
And you know, endometriosis. So I have a good friend. Her name is Jessica Murnane,
I
and
love
she wrote, yeah, and she wrote a book, Know Your Endo. And um, endometriosis is just, it sucks. I don't know how else to say it. It just sucks. And I can't even imagine working in a kitchen, having that type of condition.
it.
And so I live in Charleston, South Carolina. We have a huge restaurant scene here. I have a ton of patients who work in the restaurant biz, and it is brutal.
Yeah.
I don't know how people do it.
It's so insane. And actually, a lot of people that I work with too also are recovering like line cooks. It's a thing because, you know, you don't work looking like there's no windows in kitchens usually. You work every holiday, you work 16-hour days, and you're on your feet too. And so you don't have a lot of time to even think about yourself. You're just kind of in survival mode constantly. And I mean, that's a whole nother like live or whole other
Yeah,
podcast to talk about. It's just like
right.
how industry is. But yeah, we're serving food, but there's not a lot of like concept of like what this food is. And I truly now believe in food as a transfer of energy. And you know, if you're eating food from super stressed line cooks, part of you can kind of like sense that energy in the food as well.
I love that. I love that. Well, if food is a transfer of energy, there is great energy in this book, and it's going to help a lot of people.
Thank
So, talk to us about, you know, some of the recipes, like what are some of your favorites? Maybe talk to us about some of the sections. You have a section inspired by Mexico, which I think is cool.
Yeah. I mean, they're just inspired by like my journey so far as a chef. I spent most of my 20s for the Mexico part. I spent most of my 20s traveling around Mexico. I actually owned a retreat business in the Mayan Riviera, and so I like put on retreats in Mexico. And it's really just like,
That's fun.
yeah, so much fun. It was the best thing to do in my early
Yeah.
20s. But you know, like Mexican food, I think is the perfect place to start when transitioning because there's so many spices and citruses are used everywhere and sauces are so easy to make plant-based and like just beans and rice in general are like such a staple when you're plant-based. And so I wanted to kind of just like show a little bit of respect to Mexican culture because I just love it so much. And so, yeah, I just had to like do I want to do a whole book, but I just figured I'll just do a chapter to start. And then the next book can be all Mexican food. And then my next chapter that I thought was so important is the essentials, which is actually what I'm going to make this recipe out of. Because I think a lot of times, you know, you want to transition to going vegan and there's so many like great vegan alternatives at the store. But I think we get a little bit dependent on these processed vegan alternatives. And you know, like I buy almond milk every now and then at the store. Like I buy Miyoko's butter here and there, but I think it's really good to learn how to easily make your own as well, so that and you save so much money. It's like lower sodium, no preservatives, no gums when you make your own at home. So, and I just want to show people that you can make your own, because if it's the base, it's your essential, it's what you're eating. I mean, if you have just, let's say, like plant milk, it's going in so many things. It's going in your overnight oats or your cookies or whatever, like your Alfredo sauces, like it's going in everything. So it's really the base of what you're eating all the time. So if you can learn how to make that from scratch, then you're actually going to really help with like bloating and all these other issues you may be getting from switching to a plant-based diet that people don't necessarily think about. So for me, the essentials, like I know, because we've been traveling a bunch, so I've been eating a lot of processed vegan stuff, and like my stomach has been all out of whack just from traveling and not being able to make my own essentials. So that to me is like, it's the last chapter of the book, but in my opinion, it is like the most important chapter. And if you're just going plant-based, I think it's the perfect place to start.
Yeah, the thing is that we use the word vegan, and sometimes we interchange the expression plant-based, and
Right.
there are so many different paths that can lead you to this place, and I respect them all, and I think they're all beautiful in their own way.
Definitely.
And some people go vegan because it's for the animals. Some people it's for the environment, and some people, like for me, and it sounds like for you too,
Mm-hmm.
it was really motivated by your personal health.
Mm-hmm.
And a vegan diet has never been as accessible as it is today, but it's accessible through ultra processed foods,
Right.
which aren't actually healthy for us. And we
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be making that compromise. We shouldn't be, it's great for the animals, but we shouldn't be making the compromise that we're sacrificing our own health in the process. And so it's a beautiful thing, because a book like this makes a plant-based diet that is actually healthy and good for us. It makes it accessible. It
Right.
makes it accessible because you are showing people that you can make delicious food at home. Anyone can do it. And that's the beauty of this book. Cook, heal, go vegan, guys.
Yes. Yeah. And there's so many people who don't have access to good plant-based alternatives, and like, I hear that as an excuse, and I don't like to use the word excuse, but I do hear that all the time from people. And it's just like, you can make your own. All you need is a blender and some nuts. And if you're allergic to nuts, you just need some tofu and some hemp seeds. Like, there is something for literally everybody. And everything in this book, I wanted to make accessible no matter where you are. It's also converted to metric. So our goal is to get it translated into like as many languages as we can. So we can really just like spread the knowledge and show you that like, there's no reason why you can't put your health first. And the other thing too that I really want to touch base on is a lot of people talk about their culture and not wanting to go plant-based because of cultural reasons or traditional reasons. And I think that you can massively respect your culture and respect traditions and respect like classic cooking techniques by also respecting your body and the environment and the animals. Like it can all happen. And so there's so many different cultural foods in this book. And that's kind of what I wanted to show people, is like, you can really have it all. Like it's possible, and you don't have to like let anyone convince you otherwise.
Yeah, totally. Love that. We have some cool comments. We have someone who says it's a beautiful cover color.
Thanks.
Someone else who says that they feel that it's cheaper to be vegan than a carnivore, which I totally agree.
Totally.
Um, so someone says, Shell Carlson, and perhaps you can comment on this, but they said, I've been wondering how to make my own vegan milks and cheeses. Talk to us about the vegan milks and cheeses in this book.
Yes. Okay. So I like have to readjust because I'm so excited about them. But okay, for instance, like there's one milk recipe and it's a cashew hemp milk. So I've tried like all the different variations, like from oats to cashews to sunflower seeds. I've even tried black sesame seed milk. But this recipe, actually, shout out to my husband because he came up with it. Like, I don't know how. But it's like this perfect blend of hemp seeds and cashews and dates and Himalayan pink salt. It's so delicious. It's so creamy. It foams in a latte frother, so you can make like a beautiful latte from it. It's only a couple ingredients, and you don't need to strain it in a milk bag. Like, no straining required. So it's like, it takes 5 seconds. It's literally easier to make this than it is to go to the store. It's like the best.
I might need to take a time out to go make some of that. It sounds so good. I know what I'm going to be doing when we're done with this live. I'm going straight to that recipe.
Yeah.
Um, Someone commented the cauliflower ceviche recipe. Someone said, Glenn said the cauliflower ceviche recipe in this book is out of this world. What's up
Yeah.
with that?
It's easy, you know, so there's all different ways that you can cook. You can roast, you can saute, and this is cooking with acidity. So basically cooking with acidity is just using the acid in the lemons and the limes and the oranges to cook your food for you. And so this is just chopping, throwing things in a bowl, and letting the refrigerator do the work. And you come back in an hour and you have this like beautiful ceviche. I have made it for friends that talk a lot of smack about vegan food and they think it's fish. Like they love it. It's so
Suckers, we got you.
exactly.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. All right, cool. So quick timeout. You guys, this book is amazing. You're gonna love it. Cook, Heal, Go Vegan. It's available on Amazon. Where else can we find it?
everywhere. So everywhere books are sold. We're still working on getting it in bookstores because it just came out like a week and a half ago. But yeah, it's available everywhere online. So Target, Walmart, and of course your local bookstores. It's on IndieBound. It's literally everywhere. So, and it's everywhere in Canada as well. And it's about to be available everywhere in the UK and Australia too.
IndieBound is pretty cool because IndieBound, when you order from them, they actually are helping to support local bookstores. And I dig that because we all want to be able to walk into a bookshop with a cup of coffee and flip through some books. And in order for that to happen, we can't buy all of our books off of Amazon. We have to actually buy local sometimes. So that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
All right, so go ahead.
Kindle,
Go ahead.
and there is a Kindle version. So
Nice.
yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think? Should we take a crack at the seeded herb spelt bread?
Let's do this. Do you want to see my setup right now?
Yeah, look at that setup. See, not bad for a hotel room. This is page 178 of the book, you guys. This is one of the essentials, the seeded herbed spelt bread.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so I originally, like a little backstory on this recipe, having endometriosis, having tons of health issues, I became very afraid of gluten, as a lot of people are. And I found Spelt to be like my saving grace. In all gluten recipes, I started replacing it with organic Spelt. I had like no endo flare-ups, no inflammation, no bloating like I usually would if I went out and ate like a bagel or just any other, you know, like processed refined wheat product. And so I just want to like shout out to like my kitchen BFF. I brought this entire thing with me. Which is Spelt. Like it's a whole grain. It's pretty untouched when we talk about like GMOs and glyphosate and all that stuff. So yeah, if you are like have some gluten sensitivities, but you've never tried Spelt, I highly recommend trying it because it's not necessarily gluten that's the devil. And I know you talk about this all the time. But it's like the processing and like the pesticides and all that stuff as well. So
that's the issue.
Yeah, love it. Okay, so this recipe is great because it's fermented. I picked it for you because we always love a good like fermented recipe. You can ferment it overnight for 12 hours. I fermented up to 48 hours in the fridge before. So however long you ferment it, it's kind of like a mini sourdough. So it's kind of like making a sourdough style-ish without actually having to like mess with a sourdough starter because that's like having a little baby on your kitchen forever that you have to feed. So this is avoiding that whole process. And all you have to do is throw everything into a bowl. So we're going to I'm going to see how I'm going to do this in my little janky kitchen setup. Okay. Thank you. Give me 1 second. What am I going to do here?
No worries.
Yeah, this whole, because we're about to do a book signing in San Francisco. So we're on our way there. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do bread in this hotel room? So we're going to do like about 3.5 cups of flour. Okay, so that's like 1.5. And luckily for me, I've been doing this. I've made this bread recipe probably 300 times. So, you know, the eyeballing thing really does work if you've had enough practice.
I like it because I felt like it was snowing and it was almost, I saw something like splash up into your camera a little bit. It was kind of fun.
Oh,
like we have.
Steve, my husband's going to walk in and be like, what?
We're like in the recipe right now. Like I feel like I'm the bowl that you're pouring into.
Yeah, literally. That's like about 3.5 cups. We'll just pretend. I'm actually going to give this to my friend who lives in Santa Barbara, and she's going to bake it. And then
so this is spelt flour. We have some questions. This is spelt flour. Quick question: is there gluten? Talk about gluten-free recipes in the book because it sounds like there's not a lot of gluten.
Yes. So I only have a couple recipes using Spelt, which is basically like the cinnamon rolls and the biscuits and the bread, but everything else, and the deep dish pizza, which is so good. But everything else is gluten-free. So I have a gluten-free pizza as well. I mean, there's 70 recipes. There's only 4 using gluten. So there's a
There you
lot
go.
of cheesecake recipe is gluten-free. There's homemade tortillas in there that are also gluten-free. So yeah, I wanted to make sure that there was blends for both. And like, I will also note that if you have any other food allergies, I even made a ricotta 2 ways. So one that's tofu based and one that's nut based, just to kind of like level it out for people who may have a nut or a soy allergy.
That was thoughtful. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I started actually on this journey because I was cooking for people who had intense food allergies and doing retreats for people that had the craziest food allergies I've ever heard in my life. And I realized how frustrating it is for people not being able to find things to eat. And then when you add food allergies on top of trying to eat out and eat plant-based, it's like a whole thing. Oh, okay. So we're going to add, oh, I saw Vivian Chen's on here. Hi,
Yeah,
Vivian.
Vivian said that she made the chocolate donut and it's amazing.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to throw in just 1 packet of active dry yeast. And then we're going to use some coconut sugar. So throughout the whole book, it's also refined sugar-free as well. So I use brown coconut sugar throughout pretty much the whole book. Sometimes I'll use maple syrup. But it just really goes to show that you can have what you want and what you need. So I'm going to do sugar over the yeast. So I'm really just like adding everything into a bowl. Because I like to make it as simple as possible. You know, when you cook enough, you're just kind of like, let's do this. Let's get this over with. And if you're busy too. So I'm going to mix it around. And I like to mix up the sugar with the yeast first a little bit because you don't want to just like put your salt directly on the yeast. And then we're going to throw about a teaspoon of salt. I'm pretty much eyeballing this recipe, so I'm interested to see how this turns out tomorrow, but I think it'll be really good. Someone said, what about monk fruit sweetener? It's up to you. For me, I feel like monk fruit tastes like very artificial, like kind of stevia vibes. It's not my favorite just from my chef palate, but I cook for clients that use monk fruit and they prefer it and they love it just the same. So yeah, you can substitute anything that feels good. You can even put maple syrup in here. It's up to you. And now I'm going to do a blend of like herbs and seeds. So you can use whatever you want. I have a dried herb blend that my mom grows in her garden that she sends like huge things to me every year, which is the best. So you can use any herbs. You can use fresh herbs, rosemary, basil, like chives, like literally whatever you're feeling.
Nice.
And seeds. So you can use, I personally like to do black and white sesame seeds and poppy seeds. But you could do hemp seeds as well. You could do sunflower seeds. It's really up to you. And then we're just going to mix this together.
So right now it's all totally dry. It's the spelt flour, it's the yeast, it's the coconut sugar, and then you just put in the seeds and the nuts.
Exactly.
Or the seeds, sorry, seeds and herbs.
Herbs, yeah.
Yeah.
Seeds and herbs. And that's it. And then now all I'm going to do is add water. So I'm going to do about a cup. What does it say? I'm just going to actually eyeball the water too because I eyeball the flour. And that's kind of the beauty of making bread in this way is we're going to add water until it starts to form a perfect dough. So you don't even really have to measure it out. You can just like add it in until you get, let's see, you can see this right here. We're just going to add until we get like the right consistency. I feel like so many people are so afraid to make bread, which totally makes sense because bread is very intimidating. And all the best bread makers I've ever met are very intimidating people also because they take their but there's no reason to make your own bread at home. And like if you mess it up, it's okay. You just have to try. Okay, so I've try to like try something. I feel like
I feel like you're breaking up a little bit right now. Am I the only one who's feeling that way? I'm not. It's hard for me to tell if It seems like you're breaking up a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Yeah, that's better.
Cool. I think it's because I moved the phone a little bit.
Okay.
I'm on hotel Wi-Fi here, so.
Yeah. All right, cool. We're back. We're good.
An inch. But yeah, I was just talking about like encouraging people to try new things. And how like as adults we get stuck in the same patterns. We make the same thing every Tuesday. Like I know for the last 20 years, my dad on Monday nights makes a tostada. Like that's what he does. And he never goes outside of it. I mean, he started with burritos and it's now turned into a tostada. But my point is like we can bend our rules that we've created for ourselves a little bit. Okay, so I'm just gonna do it and I'm just gonna knead it. And to knead, you want to pull up and then push down with the base of your hand. And that's it. And that's kind of how you knead. And it's easier to knead bread when you start with all dry and you're working it in because it's not as sticky on your hand, so it's less frustrating.
Can you show us what the consistency looks like of the dough?
Yeah, so this is it so far. So it's holding together right now.
Yeah.
And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to really incorporate this. See if I can do this like that. There we go. I'm going to start to incorporate the leftover flour that's kind of on the bottom because you're going to have the flour and then you're just going to like pull it in together like that. And then once you get a smooth dough, so a smooth dough means that it's not sticking and it's not super cracked, so it's not super dry, which I'm almost there. I'll show you once I get there. And you can't really over knead it. So you want to, don't feel like you're overworking the bread. The more you knead it, the more you're activating the gluten. So the more you're allowing that binding protein to kind of get in there. So it's going to create really great consistency throughout the inside of the bread. Okay, cool. This is the first time I've ever made bread in a hotel room without a kitchen. So this is a good day. So this is what your hand will probably look like. And then this is like the smoothness. See how it's like super smooth, not cracked? Yeah. There's no extra flour. So then all you do is you're just going to leave it in this exact same bowl. You're going to grab a wet towel. Conveniently, the hotel provides these.
They have those.
Yes, and you're just going to lay it over the top. The reason why you put a wet towel over the top is because it's going to, when it sits overnight, it's going to start to dry out. So the wetness from the towel is actually going to absorb straight into your bread. So it doesn't get too dry. And then when you open it, when you take the towel off in the morning, it's going to double in size. It's going to be super bubbly and like, it's going to feel alive. Like you're going to feel like, okay, I like made some, like I birthed something today. And then what you're going to do is just knead it a couple more times with a little bit of dusting of flour and pop it in a loaf pan. So I have a little, yep. And then let's see, what do we cook it at? I'm trying to remember, 450 degrees. So it's super important to super hot oven because you're going to want to have that like crispy outside layer. I feel like bread that doesn't have a crispy crust is just like not worth your time or your calories. Honestly, like it's got to have that like perfect texture. And once you do that, you're going to shake some more seeds on top. I like to put like flaky sea salt on the top personally, some granulated garlic, some extra dried herbs, like whatever you're feeling in the moment. And then you're just going to bake it for 30 minutes and that's it. And then the key with bread too is to let it cool down because a lot of times if you cut into bread too early, you'll feel like, oh, this is like not done all the way. It actually finishes its cooking time while it's cooling.
Okay. Perfect. That's amazing. I'm going to have to try that this weekend, I think.
Yeah, it's so good. You'll love it. And honestly, if you wanted to ferment for longer, then I would say like 18 or 24 hours, I would just pop it into the fridge and let it go for another day.
So, so if you leave it, if you're going to ferment it overnight, you just leave it on the counter. But if you're going to go longer than in the fridge.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and honestly, I live in San Diego. We don't have air conditioning. So like it's super hot where we are. So I always just like pop it in the fridge if it's fermented for too long. But yeah, and I think this recipe is just a perfect example. It says like seeded herbed fermented spelt bread. Like that sounds so hard, but it's really not. It's just a couple of ingredients. And yeah, it's just diving in head first.
No, it's pretty cool because we literally have been on this live for about a half hour. We probably spent the first, 18 minutes like chatting. And then you made bread in the last 12 minutes. and you already got the dough and it's already covered up with a wet towel, and
Yeah.
um, it's ready to bake tomorrow.
Exactly. And honestly, there's so many recipes where you have to proof the yeast ahead of time, or you have to proof the bread, and like, that's fine. But for me, it's all about consistency. It's about accessibility. It's about it just being like, okay, I can do this. It's
Yeah,
less what I can do and more about like, look what you can do.
totally. No, I
Yeah.
love it. I think it's great. And there was a question I just want to point out real quick. There was someone in the audience who asked a question about the seeds and nuts
Yeah.
in the setting of diverticulitis. And I just want to point out to them, because they're wondering from me, like whether or not seeds and nuts are a problem for diverticulitis. And the issue is that seeds and nuts in diverticulitis, like the original study that suggested that there was something there, literally is like 80 years old. And if you I'm not exaggerating. And it was a part of medical education for like this entire period of time.
Wow.
And because you have so many generations of doctors talking about this, it became dogma, and it became like very difficult to get rid of. And
Right.
the problem is that if you took literally that exact same study and published it today, if it got published, it would be published in such a no-name journal that no one would even know that the study exists. So it's really just a matter of sort of like early research from 80 years ago. There's not good evidence that seeds and nuts cause diverticulitis. In fact, I would argue that there's almost no evidence. And I personally counsel my patients that they don't need to avoid seeds and nuts. There are some people who swear that seeds and nuts cause a problem. And if that is the case, then, if that's what you believe, then so be it. And I wouldn't like force you to eat seeds and nuts, but yeah. So most people, though, it's like really, really not something to be worried about.
I feel like that's the case with a lot of food fears, like, and
Yeah.
especially the more I've done on things, it's like there's all these very extremely old studies that for some reason have gotten this, this hype around them that people are still like kind of living their lives by. And so it's, I feel like that's why I love your content so much, because it's so refreshing to like hear new studies and to like know that like all this stuff is progressing, and what we know now is so much different than what we knew 80 years ago, like by a long shot.
Yeah. And I think, food fear is, I mean, so, I'm a little bit torn on this. So in some regards, let me just say that, like, we need to be able to have conversations about what is healthy and what is not healthy. I mean, we can't have a situation where unhealthy food, we're not allowed to talk about it because then somehow you're a fear monger. But there's, but there's a right way to have these conversations so that you are presenting the nuance and the facts. And many times we oversimplify it. And when we oversimplify things that are complicated, like gluten, for example, it can be very complicated. It really is.
Yeah.
And so when we oversimplify it, we're just, then we're not really giving people the truth. We're just kind of like creating a narrative that's not that's meant to be emotion based, and that's not the way to do it when it comes to things like science and nutrition.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just got totally nerdy there. I apologize.
No,
That's a total...
you it's so true, especially when you're dealing with a chronic illness. You don't know who or what to trust, and you don't know how to have conversations or how to advocate for yourself, or how to, have conversations like this without feeling fear or feeling insecure. And I think it's so important to be able to speak your truth and speak up and advocate on both sides of the fence, because I've seen hundreds of specialists, and like, it took me until the last specialist that I saw to advocate for myself and to be like, no, I actually know other information that I've learned that's science-based. And when I actually talked to the doctor, she didn't really know that much about endo. Like, I knew more about endo than she did. And I think we get really scared to speak our truth and to speak up and have conversations like this one. And I hope whoever's watching, if you're dealing with something, this will just give you a little bit of courage to have those conversations and to question things. Like, it's okay to question things that you've been told, and to like have scientific conversations, and to just maybe like understand it differently than you did before.
I totally agree. And I think that we are living in a time where we're no longer in a place where one person can be your one-stop shop for all of your health-related issues. And when you have a chronic health issue, I really encourage people, like, build a team.
Yes.
Build a team. And you know, it's not to say that the Western medical doctor is wrong. I'm a Western medical doctor. It's more to say that there are strengths to the Western medical doctor, there are strengths to the naturopath, there are strengths to the registered dietitian, and there is high value to having people like you who share their story and operate as an advocate for people who are suffering with these health issues and they don't know what to do. And endometriosis is just one of a number of different conditions that I've seen where it's just like people are suffering and they need help. And
Yes.
so anyway, so go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I'm part of people's team. Like, I have so many clients where I'm working with their team of naturopaths and acupuncturists, and like, I am part of their team, and I'm their food team. I'm getting them stoked on this food, this diet idea, or this new lifestyle change. And I totally get that as part of the team. Like, I couldn't do my by myself. Like, I need the doctor to check up on my patient with type 2 diabetes to see, like, where his blood results are actually at. Like, I can't do that, you know? So we need the team. And I think a lot of times people have trauma from that one doctor that they were visiting or that one thing. And it's a trauma response that your healing becomes based on this trauma response. And instead, it's good when you can pull yourself out of the trauma and realize you can find a new team of people that are on your side, and you don't have to stick with anyone you don't like. And that is the most empowering thing ever. Because I think growing up, it was like, this is your doctor. This is just what you have to deal with. And it's just like not that way anymore. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, and there are some comments about, like, you know, it can be like, for example, there are places that exist throughout the entire world where people don't, even if they want access, even if they could afford access, they don't have access to good healthcare in their community.
Right.
And so, you know, we have to be in some ways creative. When I say build your team, I don't literally mean, like, I'm not only talking to people who live in big cities who have access to this type of stuff. Part of it is surrounding yourself with the right people to build your own knowledge.
Right.
And that isn't necessarily exclusively the product of encounters where you are paying to be one-on-one with a person who's a specialist. That can also be being selective and smart about who you choose to follow and learn from on the internet.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Because you're getting these like subconscious messages all the time when you're scrolling too. So it is important to be picky in that sense. And I agree. Like, I feel so empowered because of the people that I follow. Like, Jessica Murnane's such a great example. I found her right before my last surgery, like 3 years ago, and reached out to her and was like, I'm so scared right now. I just like need advice on what I was going through in the moment. And I didn't know her, but she in that moment became part of my team. Like, she was like, okay, I was like, okay, I'm going to go to her for all these resources. She, you know, and she then points me in the direction to other people that know about endo and that. So you kind of get involved in this ecosystem of people that are creating change with whatever you're dealing with. And it becomes very powerful and like so amazing.
Yeah. Someone's asking what was her name. Her name was Jessica Murnane.
Yeah.
She's a mutual friend that we have. She wrote a book called Know Your Endo. She's a big advocate for people with endometriosis. So, and you know, it's like, for example, I know how much effort you put into this book. And the beauty of it is that this is your craft.
Yes.
This is your craft. You are a French trained chef creating plant-based recipes that people can do at home. And the beauty of it is that you, like, for the 150 people who are hanging with us right now, you can get access to that level of expertise. Like, I'm not a French trained chef. I know nothing about cooking, but I can get access to someone who does through this book right here, Cook, Heal, Go Vegan.
Exactly.
You know, and just like my book, like, I obviously wholeheartedly believe in my book. And it was a complete passion project. I'm shocked that anything happened with it. I'm shocked that people cared. But I wrote it because I needed to write it. I felt like people needed to hear it. And the beauty of it is, like, you don't even have to buy my book. Go to the library. You can read it for free. I don't care. Just read the book.
Exactly.
And, and that's part of when I say, like, build your team. It's like get access to the right people with the right knowledge. So anyway, all right, Chef
Tangent.
Bay, go ahead. Great to see you.
On a tangent, but it's okay.
Um, so this book, guys, Cook, Heal, Go Vegan. This is a book that you guys will absolutely love, and 70 recipes, all vegan. Again, like amazing categories. There's a Mexican section, breakfast section, comfort food, better than takeout, the essentials. Let me just read to you the recipes that are in this one section, the essentials. Ready, guys? Here we go. Not your mama's salted butter, walnut parm, cashew hemp milk, which I'm about to go make right now,
Good.
ricotta two ways, herbed, again, completely vegan, herbed creamy feta, slightly sweet coconut yogurt, immune boosting veggie broth, cashew cream, pesto almond hummus, berry-licious chia jam, and last but not least, the seeded herbed spelt bread that we made here today in like 12 minutes, and it could be baked tomorrow at 450 degrees for a half hour. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's so good. I just want to say to you, my dad is watching and he just commented no tostadas tonight.
You're busted, Dad. You're busted. No more tostadas on Tuesdays.
So funny. Yeah, thanks so much for all the love. I really appreciate it. And same thing. This cookbook's been in my heart for so long, and I really just hope it helps people and encourages people to, just be like the front runner in their healing journey, because it really is up to you. And you can start like literally tonight with dinner or tomorrow with breakfast. Like, you don't have to wait for the next 30-day challenge or for the next new year or for the next thing. Like, you can start tomorrow with your next meal, and it doesn't have to be anything but that, just like one meal at a time. It's so simple.
It's amazing. Love it so much. All right, you guys, make sure you grab the book, Cook, Heal, Go Vegan. Thank you for hanging with us tonight. Thank you, Chef Bay. Good to see you again.
Thanks. So good to see you. It's been amazing. I'm so excited right now.
Good luck with the book signing. Have fun.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. Bye, everyone.